Welcome to the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. And today I have my very first guest on the podcast, Bjorn Lestrud. Thank you so much for being on the podcast and being my first interview.
Pleasure to be here.
Awesome. So I wanted to introduce you briefly. Bjorn helps people reconnect with their authentic selves through a unique blend of sound work and deep healing practices. Drawing from transformative experiences with ancient wisdom and energetic modalities, Bjorn guides individuals on a journey of emotional release, alignment, and self-expression. His work is not for the faint of heart, but for those ready to explore profound healing and personal growth. So welcome to the podcast, and we're going to discuss your own healing journey with Shipibo maestro. Did I pronounce that correctly? Or did I just butcher that?
So the Shipibo, it's an ancient lineage of indigenous people that live near the Amazon. So it's not actually the name of a person. It was a Shipibo maestro. Like a maestro, they don't use the term shamans in their culture. They call if you want to use the word shaman, they call them maestros.
Oh, interesting. So give us a little background on how this came to be and how you ended up connecting with this person and how you ended up getting on this journey and what you learned.
Sure. Well, I had been on a very deep, intense healing journey. It started a few years ago when I was spending some time living in Tulum in Mexico. And arriving there, I didn't really intend on doing anything of the kind. It wasn't something I was consciously seeking, but unconsciously, I guess I was. I was there just to see a friend and meet some new people and have some good experiences. And I had prior to that been traveling around the world and living in different countries for 5 years, maybe. I lived in like 15 different countries. And that was one of my last stops along the way. So it started with a friend of mine who he had gotten into an accident and hurt his toe really bad. His toe was really black and blue, but really it got so black that pretty much everyone who saw it told him, your toenail is going to fall off, right? And I had just seen his toe a couple of days ago prior. And then one day he comes to me and he says, "Look at my toe." And I looked at his toe and it was completely normal. No discoloration. The whole toenail was still there. And I was amazed. I'm like, how did that come about? Well, I went to this healing ceremony called the Light Portal. And it just happened. I had this emotional release, physical release in my body, and then my toe healed. So it got me interested in exploring some healing work. I had some issues. I had chronic arthritis in my knees and chronic back pain and high blood pressure and some other things. So gave it a shot. So I went to the ceremony and I had a release of my own there. And I started doing some exploration of healing modalities. And for a while, everything was great. I was learning a lot about myself, and I was enjoying it, making new friends. And I was enjoying just the act of being a facilitator for other people. But at some point along the way, I triggered some kind of deeper trauma within myself that was some kind of trauma. It was a trauma, a birth trauma from when I got stuck in the birth canal when I was born. And I didn't realize how deeply that had affected me. But when this started coming up, I went through this period of just really, really intense depression. And for about 3 months, I just stayed in my apartment for the most part and just kind of sat with it. It was so intense, just the sadness. Oh man, it was rough. And it really forced me to go more inside, and in doing so really establish a stronger practice for myself. And as I was starting to come out of that, I ended up scheduling an appointment with this guy. I thought I thought what he was a cranial sacral therapist, and I guess he was. But what I didn't realize was that he was also a Shipibo maestro, among other things. And so when I went in for the session, he was doing all these like chants and other things that was really kind of shocking to me, and didn't quite know how to take it. And after the first session that I did with him, because I did a number of sessions with him, after the first session I did with them, I went to the 7-Eleven, but not the one nearby the office where I had the session, but the one on the far other side of town, to buy a drink. And as I was leaving the 7-Eleven, there he was, the guy I had just done the session with. He looks at me and he goes, "See, I told you." And so from there, I started working with him more. And eventually, I sat in an ayahuasca ceremony that he ran, which was mind-blowing experience in and of itself. Not that that was my first time doing ayahuasca, but the way that he facilitated it was super powerful. But anyways, he started. I was a 2-day ayahuasca journey, and on the second day, he invited me to start what's known as a dieta. So in the Shipibo lineage, the people there, they often work with different plants in a like a longer term sort of relationship way, where they'll enter into a certain type of agreement where you don't eat certain foods, you don't engage in certain behaviors for the period of time where you're engaging and working with the plant. And the goal is, of course, to immerse more with the plant and receive the healing of the plant as much as possible. So I had done a dieta prior to this, actually. And so when I thought of a dieta, I thought a dieta was that you basically, you make a tea and you drink the tea, and that's how you consume the plant. But the way that this maestro worked, there was no physical plant. During the ayahuasca ceremony, using his chanting, he implemented the seed of this particular plant called Marosa inside of me, inside of my energetic field. And then from there, over the next 3 months, which is the length I did this dieta, he would work with me over Zoom. He would get each time we'd meet maybe once every 2-3 weeks, in which time he would give me a new chant. And then I was to listen to that chant every day. And then afterward, smoke some mapacho and do a certain ritual for grounding. But I had this experience about a month into the dieta where I went for a walk one evening, and I did that customarily in the evenings. Would just go for like walks, maybe 45 minutes or so, around the area there. I had kind of a gated community, so it was pretty calm and quiet and nice at night after dark. And as I was walking, I felt this warming sensation in my, like right in the middle of my upper chest. And then from there, it felt like, the best way I can describe it is what it looks like when flower petals open all at once, one time. It felt like that, but for my heart, or my high heart, just opened, and I just suddenly stepped into this total, complete euphoria and unconditional love that was a very physical experience. And I felt so connected and in love with everything that was in my environment that I saw. Like if I saw a tree when I was in that state, I would start falling in love with the tree. If I saw a sidewalk, I'd start to fall in love with the sidewalk. Whatever I put my focus on, I was falling in love with it. And I was so intoxicated with the sensation that I was just stumbling around like a drunk. And so this really opened my eyes in terms of what's possible for healing, that this guy was able to work with me this way remotely, digitally, using sound. And that began my own journey. Not only the integration of that experience when I came back to the States, but then my own explorations with my own abilities, and using sound. And I've learned how to facilitate those types of experiences for other people.
Can you talk about the ceremony that you experienced in the beginning of your story? Can you describe
Sure.
it a little bit?
It was called the Light Portal, and it was a collection of different modalities, all kind of dynamic and at the same time. So, you'd enter the space and they would be smudging you with copal to try and cleanse your energy body. And then you would go in, and after they would introduce themselves, there would be like a group biodynamic breath work, which is like breath work, with movement. And then they would have us do open mouth breathing, like strong breathing, and get back, lay down on our backs. There were maybe 15, 20 of us participating in sort of in a circle around the outside of the place, and maybe 4 facilitators. And so then there would be someone would be drumming, someone would be chanting. There were people going around. Most of the facilitators were going around and doing physical body work on people, like myofascial stuff and organ release type stuff. It was just the very dynamic experience. So one of the facilitators there was this woman from this like ancient Muslim healing lineage, and she came up to me and she had these really strong hands, and she was pressing on my body in different places, and it hurt a lot. But going through that, I felt this release and I started laughing uncontrollably during the experience, and that led to other things. Actually, eventually I became a facilitator for the light portal. So it was kind of an interesting progression and cycle, how it all kind of worked out.
So was there a group of people there like you experiencing the ceremony? Was it a big group or?
15 to 20.
Mm.
Yeah, I think now they capped them at 15. It's still going.
And how did you discover that you had a birth trauma? How did you come to that
Well, I mean, I
conclusion?
knew that I knew what happened when I was born. I just didn't realize that I was carrying the energy of it. And it was when I started feeling this really heavy depression that was just kind of pervasive, when I would sit with the energy and soothe it, if you will, calm down, I found myself making baby noises and soothing soothing a baby. Uh, and I just connected with that and realized what it was when it happened. It was intense, very intense.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've done meditations on the past and on the future, and I remember my birth too because I did a meditation back to that time. And I didn't remember any trauma, but I remember being born and recognizing the nurse in the room on a soul level. Like I looked at her and I said, "Oh, I know who you are." So you're now a sound healer. So um, tell us a little bit more about that and what
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
clients you work with.
So when a lot of people hear sound healing, they think about someone that's like playing singing bowls and blowing on a didgeridoo and that sort of thing. But my primary tool with my work is actually my voice. So it is sound healing, but it's like a shamanic work, because I channel, but into music, song, and different voices come through, all different pitches, frequencies, cadences. It's a very dynamic experience. It all comes through in the language of my primary guide, which is a blue dragon. So it comes through in a dragon language. I do use some tuning forks and other instruments here and there, but ultimately my work is really about liberating the throat chakra and bringing that forward. And so for people who aren't quite familiar with the throat chakra, I mean, there are different layers. It has all to do with how you're bringing out your authentic self. And so that can be manifested in so many ways in relationships that you have, in your marketing, if you have a business, in really just how you express yourself is what it's all about. And so what a lot of people come to me, they may already be a healer, for example, and they want to bring out and expand their gift more. And some people, they are newer to the space, but they've tried a few other things and nothing really quite resonated with them. And they know that there's something there that they want to find, and they want help doing it. And so what I do, I use partly my training with biofield tuning and tuning forks. And so in like a first introductory session, what I do is I use the tuning forks combined with my voice to work on their Earth star and sun star chakras, kind of, the battery terminals at the top and the bottom of the energy field, so to speak, just to make sure that those are shifted into their natural spots, and then to bring forward the foundational support that they need to really reset their body. And so, both from up and also from below. And then from there, I'll start doing work just mostly through singing.
And then what kind of results are you seeing with your clients? Do they need a couple of sessions? Depends on how chronic the health challenge is.
Well, I like to do I do like an I have an introductory sort of phase of my Primal Path program. It's about I think it's currently 6 sessions overall. It's a good number to work with. And yeah, it's kind of amazing because I never know what someone's going to bring forward and what form it's going to take. So some people start chanting with me and move into an exploration of that. I remember someone had started filling up notebooks full of these like really intense, detailed like graphics of like sacred geometry and stuff like that. What he'd never done that before. Yeah, everyone is uniquely different, and everyone has their own unique thing, and to connect with that is like the greatest feeling,
Yeah, have you ever experimented with this using your voice in certain locations like churches or, I'm thinking about there are some sound chambers in the temples of Egypt that I visited last spring where we would just chant or tone in those places just to hear our own voices and how it would bounce off the walls. We also did like chanting in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. We turned off all the lights and sang. And it was all intuitive. It was all what we felt like coming out of our throats and our mouths at the moment.
I haven't done it any place like that, but the most sacred place that I've really done it thus far would be when I went and visited this Mayan abuelo last December. Their property, they have several. I'm trying to think of what the term is. The underground water things that are so prevalent in
Cenote?
cenote. There we go.
Yeah.
They had his property there. There's 3 different cenotes, and they keep them like, people don't swim in them, and they're kept, really well. And so I was multiple times went there and just sang right into it, and that had a powerful energy.
I bet. Yeah, I visited one cenote. It didn't seem very clean, so I did not jump in the water. Yeah, but
Yeah, some of them are not.
yeah, there were a lot of bats there, and it had a strong smell from the bats, I think, and that cenote. But So when you first began, exploring your voice, um, did you have any issues with your throat chakra? Was that something that you needed to open up yourself?
Yeah. I didn't realize the potential of what was there. It started with I did a private session with a couple of healers, and one of them worked on me for about an hour and a half, and then like physical on my body, like working on blockages. And then we talked for a little while about, what they saw, like the different energies they saw, the guides they saw, the family stuff. And then their partner served me a plant medicine called hape, which is, a type of shamanic snuff. So I have right here, for example, I have a kuripi. So this is a self-serve applicator. You take it and you blow both nostrils. You scoop it in and you blow. And then in ceremony, they use often what's called a tepe, which is like a longer curved thing. And so one person blows and the other person has it in their nose, and one person serves another. Well, anyhow, I'd never taken hape before, and so he served it to me, and then he started shaking maracas in my ears, so I couldn't. It was too much noise for my mind to be able to think, or to try and process. And so then he started making these chanting sounds himself. Next thing I know, I'm starting to make these chanting sounds, but it was very raw, very guttural, not really musical so much, more like a giant waking up and shaking itself off and wondering and then basically I couldn't stop though, and then this force just sort of came through me, and then I purged a lot, and I felt sick for hours. But when I woke up the next morning, all the pain from my knees that I had for the past 2 years was gone. And the unlocking of my throat chakra was kind of a series of things that happened. I guess one of the peak moments in that journey was through another experience with plant medicine. When I did bufo alvarius, which is uses something that's secreted from a toad, and you smoke it. So I was served the bufo, and I had set an intention. I want to open my third eye more. So they served me this, and they told me just put your your arms up and just fall back onto the mattress. So I put my arms up, and I'm just like, oh, after I inhaled, and next thing I know, I'm feeling this really intense pressure, like in the middle of my forehead, almost like someone's digging their fingernail as hard as they can into my forehead. The next thing I know, there's this, explosion of blue light everywhere, and then this song just sort of erupted through me, and I mean, my mind was, and I was in a very deep trance. It's not like the thinking mind was nowhere to be found there. This song was just coming through on its own, and that is a moment when my vocal range suddenly just expanded enormously, both from the highs to the lows. It shifted, and it's never been the same since.
So were you hearing a song?
I was singing a song.
You were singing the song. Okay. Hmm.
And so now when I go and have a different experiences, different insights, different awakenings, the singing is where I integrate. And so, for example, when I visited that Mayan abuelo last December, I had an energetic experience there. I received a putzia treatment. It's a ancient Mayan energy treatment when I was there, and I had a really profound awakening there. But the integration of that actually happened after I came back to the States, and I was back for a few weeks. One evening, I was doing one of my live events where I sing and play the drum, and this like warble type sound all of a sudden started coming out. Like instead of a flat tone, like it was like oh, and I just started laughing, and I realized that it was actually the effect from what I learned when I was at the Mayans place in Mexico.
Which was what? What did you learn?
That was the embodiment, the contribution to my work. Well, an element of it, but the energy and the experience of it, which I can't really describe, beyond much the physical of that and the laughter.
So when you are singing, is that in a language, or is it like a light language?
It's a dragon language.
Oh, okay, because it's felt a little bit Native American.
Yes, one of the strongest influences in my energy field is a Native American shaman, and they work with me a lot, and comes forward very strongly. But the language itself is through my primary guide, which is a blue dragon, and so they're kind of the conductor to bring everything forward from the guides.
And so if you have someone that you're working with online, that's how you would do the sound healing with them?
Yes, that's how I do my events, and that's how I do a lot of things. In an initial session, though, a lot of the work is with the tuning forks and less song. There will be some song at the end, but there's other dynamics to it.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. I did not prepare him, y'all, for doing that, but he graciously did. Well, I wanted to thank you for being on the podcast, and let the audience know how they can find you. And if you're promoting a book or an event, please mention that as well.
Yeah, so everything runs through my main website, bluedragonhealing.net. And there you can find all of the offerings that I have, my core program, and some samples and some free things as well.
Well, thank you so much, Bjorn.
Thank you for having me.
I was thinking how perfect that was, because the name of the podcast is Voices of Healing. And in the very first episode, we have you just showing us how you use your voice for healing. So literally,